Alright, King 80 Industries, little track breakdown of a Lady Gaga inspired beat, inspired by Alejandro from the Fame Monster. You know it, you love it, I know it, I love it, we all love it. It's a classic, and I wanted to break down, I already made this beat, I usually do my from scratch tutorials, but I wanted to break this down because I put a ton of time into this, way too much time into this, and just wanted to go section by section, sound by sound, and see and show you how to get that 2000s electro pop sound, if that's something you're into. Let's take a snippet of the final track to see what we're dealing with. A lot of stuff. All right, you get the idea. So I'm gonna break it down in the order I kind of started making it. So I started with the bass and this kind of group of sounds. I actually started with the verse. The chords are slightly different from the verse to the chorus. And in the reference, the Alejandro by Lady Gaga, the chords change in the verse to the chorus. So I didn't completely rip off the chords, but I did a similar vibe. And like I said, started with this bass sound. So these are all, I'm not going to go into the sound design really because I use presets for pretty much everything, but I'll break down the sounds themselves and what I did to get the vibe. So I started with this big bass sound. Generally, we're just looking for, also I used Pigments by Arturia. I used Analog Lab, but I used all Pigments sounds, which is an amazing modern sounding synth, but we're going for like the sawtooth electro sound. So started with this, and everything's being sidechained here. This is the key to the groove, because without it, I'll just bypass it. Sounds pretty awesome, honestly. But I spent a lot of time with this rhythm to give it kind of like a reggaeton type vibe. So with it on, I didn't want to do like normal side chaining where it's just like quarter note pumping. I wanted it to be shorter here and then go up longer for like a 1-bar phrase. But I'll turn it off for now, just how I started making this. So like I said, started with this bass, then this second layer. This is like that classic Skrillexy vocal bass, like the Yoi bass. And this gives it a lot of character. So these together. And then this one is, I have big wide. Let's see how it sounds. It's just kind of like a wide layer. Similar to the other sounds, but it just widens the bass out. And generally, I don't like to use this many layers. I was just like having a good time, going a little crazy, you know, adding way too much stuff. So you don't need this many layers for all your sounds. With this beat, it's more layered and intricate, but I try to use as few layers as possible, generally. This is a beat that definitely does the opposite of that. The last bass sound I really like. It's like this high distorted layer, and I have it, I took out the low end. It just sounds like it's running through like a guitar pedal. And this is in the choruses and the bigger sections. So these are the main basses, and then adding this high one in. It just fills up the high mids a lot. And this track is very bass centric, so that's why I'm having a lot of basses, because I just wanted the bass to be kind of the main element and it to sound huge. So that's also why we have so many basses going on. So we have the main bass sound. Let's add back in this LFO tool thing. So you get the groove. I'll turn on the click. So you get the idea of the groove. And that's kind of the key groove for the whole song. Next we have this pluck bass sound. I'm going to take off the click because I hate it. This just kind of adds to the main rhythm, but gives it more attack. So let's hear the basses. The pluck bass and the main bass together. Without the pluck bass. Wait, whoops. Wait, so main bass, then pluck bass. It just adds the groove, more groove. Then we have this acid section, which is this gives it like, it's kind of like a bass. It's not really a bass sound. It's kind of like a mid-level melody, or mid. How do I explain this? It's kind of like a melody in the middle of the frequency range. It's not like bass and it's not high. It's just kind of like keeps things moving and keeps the pulse going. And it's pretty low in the mix. I'll show you what sound I used, because it's this I use Analog Lab for everything, but I use obviously they have specific synths in there, and this one is the acid synth, and I use that for the acid sounds. It's based on the 303. So I'm just gonna open it to give you guys an idea of what this is. So I just have the notes held down, and that's kind of a sequence it's playing. The other acid bass, this is more of the classic like techno sound, and it's also the same instrument, the acid Arturia bass. So this comes in like the post chorus, and it just adds more movement. I play with the whole track. You can't even really hear it. Again, why you don't need a ton of layers, but it just adds more subtle movement. These are kind of the subtle elements. Okay, we got the basses. Let's get into the chords. The only thing pretty much is this. Turn on the click. I made this sound in Serum, and I'll just show you real quick. It's super simple and dumb. 2 saw waves with a bunch of unison and slightly detuned, and then this Arturia. Man, I'm using a lot of Arturia stuff. They gotta hit me up. This is providing more distortion. So without it, it's pretty clean. A little distortion, but with it, it's dirty. So those are the chords. Let's hear it with the bass, all the bass stuff. And the chords are like an offbeat. They're not the same rhythm as the bass, and this gives it more groove. They're kind of playing off each other and not just playing the same thing. Because I originally had it playing the same rhythm, and it just like wasn't working. It was just very like monotonous. and this offbeat chord patch gives it more groove. I have an arpeggiator. Take the click off. This is just for vibes. It's pretty low in the mix. Vice. You can barely hear it, but it's for vibes. Now let's get into the fun stuff, which is this is the main lead sound. And it's 2 layers. I'll just show you the sounds real quick, even though they're all presets. It's really about sound selection. It's not like to me, there's so many good presets out there. I would rather just use an amazing preset that someone has spent a lot of time making than make something myself. Sometimes if I need a quick sound, I'll make it myself. But I like getting inspired by presets because people put so much time into them, and you can just, you know, get a lot of for free. You can buy, they're not too expensive, and it just gives you inspiration rather than you constantly having to inspire yourself. Like a preset sound can inspire you. And this is the first layer. And I went through a lot of sounds, but this off 5, I think the person's name, I don't know how to pronounce that, but fire stuff. And then I have this second sound, cyber pluck. Way more metallic than them together. And I think I compressed them. Yeah, I did a lot. I try to get presets that just sound like perfect and do as little as possible to them. General rule of thumb is I'm trying to do as little as possible to everything. Just the fewest moves, the fewer moves you need to make, the better. But with this one, I wanted to glue these layers together a bit more, so I compressed it, I saturated it, and then I'm going through a channel strip. So bypassing all of these, it just sounds like a little lamer, but with that compression and saturation, it just gives it more balls, you know what I'm saying? I think the last thing we got is this vocal sample thing. And I did a lot to this. This will be cool to little deconstruct, because I kind of did some sound designy stuff with this. So we have, I'm just going to bypass all the effects. We have vocals from the Kara vocal pack, and I just took some snippets, and I have 2 layers panned left and right. So this is the first layer. Second layer. And I like them both, and I wanted a wide sound, so I was just like, I'll just use 2 and pan them left and right. So this is them together. And they don't even sound like vocals in the final mix because of all the effects. And turn on the effects. So we got some distortion, some reverb, some delay, some EQ, I think some compression. Yeah, compression, saturation. So I just did a lot of stuff. This is all trial and error. But I wanted a bit more distortion and a bit more space. So basically just throwing on some distortion and reverb. Without the distortion, it just sounds like lame. And then I have it going through the same groove kind of LFO as the basses. And that's pretty much everything besides the drums. So let's hear everything minus the drums. And overall, we're going for just an epic electro sound, electro pop. But when you have this much stuff going on, you really need to prioritize like what is the what is the focus of, because not everything can be huge, then nothing's huge, you know what I mean? So I really wanted the basses to shine, and that this main lead. So that's kind of what I'm hearing, and then everything else is just supporting the kind of like the saw bass sounds and the main lead. Then halfway through in the post-chorus, what I call the post-chorus, we have that vocal lead. And that's just some extra sauce, you know, like it's not playing the whole beat. It's just kind of for the biggest sections. It's coming in, and we have a lot going on in these big sections. But for the verses, for example, it's just the bass and the chords. So you really gotta, like, when you have this much stuff going on, it's just to build to the climax. It's not to constantly be playing everything. But huge missing element so far is the drums. So let's talk about the drums. Started with the kick. I'll mute everything else. Start in the yeah, just like a standard kind of like EDM kick. I went through a lot of kick samples for this one because it really depends on how it sounds within your track. So a kick might sound awesome, you know, just going through samples, but it needs to sound good in the track. That's the whole point, obviously. So I went through a bunch, and this is what I got. Some slight EQ, nothing crazy. Next, we have a clap, like an 808 clap, classic. Next, we have these snares. I'm just gonna solo all these snares because it's like a 909 kind of snare, just from like, you know, random sample packs. I'm just going through a bunch of sounds and seeing what fits well in the track. So starting with that snare, and then what I like to do to create some more groove is having a snare hit, and then on the second snare hit having another snare or a double snare. It just switches it up. And then we have that big reverby snare to like bring each section home, kind of at the end of 4 bars. I'll play it with the track. So just keeping things interesting. If you just have a single kick and a single snare, that's cool. But having some accent sounds, just take it to the next level. Next, we have these hi-hats. This is an 808 808 hi-hat, just standard, and this is a 909 classic open hi-hat. And I thought they sounded really good together, so they're meant to be played together. Then this is where I get in the loop territory. Shaker loop. What's going on? Wait, let me unmute these. Shaker loop, tambourine loop that comes in the big sections. These toms, this isn't a loop. I kind of used a sample and then just looped it. This tom provides a lot of the groove, and I'll play it with everything in a second so you can hear. This is just like an accent tom. So let's hear all the drums together. So you hear this, like, this tom is following the rhythm of the bass. I'll play everything. And without this tom hit, it's like not dope. it's just way super straight and kind of boring. But adding in the toms, now we're fucking grinding. Now we're dancing with our friends at a club at 3 a.m. You know what I mean? So those are the drums all together. We added to the drum bus some compression and some Cymatics Diablo. Without this, I'll bypass these because there was kind of a lot going on in the drums and I wanted to glue everything together. So without, sounds cool, but I just wanted it to give it a little more energy. So with the compression, adding a little volume but just gluing things together with a little volume. And then this Diablo is adding a lot. I love this plugin for drums. It's just like a Swiss Army knife, pretty much. You can use it for a bunch of different situations, but I have some heat, which is basically saturation, and then some clipping. So without it, with it, pretty subtle, but it just gives it more balls, to be frank. Everything together. So those, oh, I have the effects. The effects aren't too crazy. I added this dialogue that I think is cool.
If I had a knife, I'd cut your throat from ear to ear.
It's subtle.
If I had a knife, I'd cut your throat from ear to ear. I would not deliver you.
It's not even like, I don't even care if you understand it or if I understand it. I just want the vibe to be there. And then I have these riser effects. This is just like boring stuff that takes the energy to another level. It's like stuff I don't like really adding, but you kind of have to get the energy where you want it or where I want it. So I have a riser. I have another sweep kind of riser, and then I have my reverse, go-to reverse. So everything within the track. It adds to the energy. And then we have a crash. Pretty simple. We have my favorite impact I use that in like every beat. I always do the effects last and only if I need it. But in this style, you like kind of need it. It just really calls for it. But not all beats need effects. It's just whatever works with each beat. So the effects are the last thing I added, and then we get into the arrangement. And I just copied the exact arrangement from Alejandro by Lady Gaga. And it's pretty long, but I'm really trying to make my arrangements better, and I feel like it's been a weak point for me in like older beats where I spend so much time on a loop and then I go to arrange it and I just like spend 10 minutes arranging it, and the arrangement is really what makes the song or the production like have tension and release and like makes it really hit. Because if you have all these elements and then you're just looping it, it'll get boring within 10 seconds. So we have an intro going into the big intro. I'm just gonna skip through, going into the verse, everything, you know. And I'm also imagining a singer on this, which is the whole point of making beats, pretty much, unless you're a film composer. The pre, it gets chiller. We add in that acid bass, and then building up into the chorus, a little drum fill into the chorus. This is everything that takes it to the next level. And then in the chorus, we have the drums drop out. We have a little fill going into the post-chorus, kind of the biggest section. You'll hear right here. Post-chorus, we're adding in that vocal sound, this thing, and adding in some more tambourines, because I want this part to be the biggest part of the song. Then we have a little transition element where I filtered the whole track a little bit and added the dialogue back in. Verse 2, pretty much the same. Pre-chorus, pretty much the same as the first one. Chorus, pretty much the same. And then we have the bridge, which is the verse chords. The bridge is really dependent on what the vocalist is going to do. That's where I want imagining a vocalist on this. It sounds kind of similar to the verses and the choruses, but the vocals can do something completely different. But the chords do change. We got the verse chords in the bridge and the chorus chords right before it. And then this is what I love to do in arranging, is this soft chorus element. It's in the reference, it's the same thing, but it really makes the latter part of the track kind of stand out. So after the bridge, we got a soft chorus. So you would sing the chorus over this, but the drums drop out and it's chill, and it provides a whole new kind of breath of fresh air to the track, and then can add some tension. I'm building it up with the snares, filtered snares here into the big chorus. So you can see the automation here with these snare hits or snare rolls. And that's pretty much it. Into the big post-chorus and outro. And you see, like, I have some automation on the basses. In the intro, I have some automation on the bass and the chords. This is just gonna take it to the next level. You hear in the intro, it's all filtered. Filtered going into the pre, opening up the chords. And I have these on my pre-master going over the whole track. These kind of filters right here, where I'm taking out the low end for it to really hit with the new section. So that's a good trick for making your next section hit hard, is just taking out some low end. Like we're subtly doing it here. You don't even really notice it, but it makes the next section just hit harder. And yeah, that's pretty much it. So covered a lot of stuff. Basically the sounds, we're just using presets, and it's about the composition more than the sound design, in my opinion. And it's just simple chords, simple bass notes, and just getting that groove and getting good sound selection rather than spending a million years like designing a bunch of crazy stuff. And taking it to the next level with effects and automation and arrangement. Like if you see my overall session, we got a lot of stuff dropping out. Nothing's playing throughout the whole track. And that gives it some variety. And yeah. So hope you guys like that. If you do, I can do more fully finished breakdowns, but yeah, that's it. Peace.